And I don't think, it's not a lot of, well, that's your business about drugs and all that, but the Viagra, I could see that today. But then, you know, who knows?
Usually if they're doing stuff, I don't want to know about it.
Right.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to know about it. I don't want anyone dying on my set.
Yeah.
There's no, like some sets are, you know, very party oriented, mine are not. It's like, there's water and soda, you know, nobody's drinking until we're done.
Good for you, good for you. You know who you remind me of? I'm sitting here listening, who looks a little bit like you? You look like a young Sally Kirkland. Has anybody ever said that to you?
No, I've never heard that one.
No?
That's interesting.
Your voice too. The first show I ever did was with Sally. She was my first guest. And she's a member of the Actors Studio, that's how I know her.
Okay.
And yeah, and I'm sitting there, the way you're talking and moving like Sally Kirkland. And so Sally, I know you watch the show, and she sees you, she's gonna, wow, it looks like, she had, it's the blonde hair she had.
Yeah.
But back then, she might have had the same color hair as you. Do you take acting lessons or anything like that?
I haven't taken any recently. I did, I went through a whole training thing with IMTA, I don't know if you're familiar. It's an acting and modeling competition. They have it in New York and LA. I did it in New York. You have to audition to get a spot. And then I did this barrage of workshops, and then you do the week-long competition, I think, or maybe it's a few days. It seemed like a week in New York, and where you have all different categories, and I did that.
Because as the director, so the good directors are people who are actors.
Yeah.
So you know how to work with actors, and you know what it's about.
Right.
Because if you don't, I mean, you see a lot of films that done, the last thing the director does is worry about the acting. Because to them, a lot of people believe anybody can act.
Yeah, they do.
You know, and I was listening to you talking about how the guy didn't know how to hold the whips.
Yeah.
And you knew he wouldn't be convincing.
He wasn't going to be a convincing Dom. And it's funny because I've heard people tell me since then that he's really more a sub that's been put in a Dom role, and like that his verbal is bad. And I'm like, you could tell by his body language.
Yeah.
You
So you
know?
think the guy would train. That's where training comes in.
Right.
If you learn how to do what you're doing.
Well, even somebody can teach you how to hit somebody, but they can't teach you the psychology. Or they can teach you the psychology, but it's got to be in you. And SM in particular is very, and fetishes, you know, are very psychologically based. And I think also most videos ignore that element, and that's something I try to do in my movies.
You do fetish films too?
I do mostly fetish films.
Oh.
Like my last release before this was called Ashley Renee Latex Slave, and the story of that is that I want her to be, she likes rope, and I want her to be my latex slave now, because I'm bored with rope, which is kind of true how I've progressed in real life. I'm really over rope. And so I try to create a psychological link between between latex and sex. So it's like, you know, she wants to be tied up, so I'll tie her up, and then after she's done, I'll put a latex hood on her, and then, you know, we have strap-on sex, or, you know, I do a forced orgasm, and that way builds this link.
Yeah.
And people, you know, watching it can also build the link even without, you know, realizing that that's the link that they're building.
Are you usually the butch or the femme?
All the women in my movies are femme. You don't have to be a butch to be the top.
To put a strap on, it's not considered a butch?
No, a butch is more of a look. Butch is, you know, like have shorter hair, is more boyish.
Well, yeah. But,
I mean, all the girls in my videos are very, very glamorous.
Oh. But, okay, so when someone puts on, but that's the point I was bringing, the one who puts the strap on.
The top, well, it's a top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm usually the top.
Yeah, okay, that's what I really make.
Yeah.
I mean, back in this, there was a bar in Greenwich Village called Kelly's Village West, which was a lesbian bar, and I used to hang out there a lot, and we were all friends. There were dances up at the Metropole and this and that, and predominantly were mostly, you know, gay women, lesbians. But I always found gay women, the majority of them like men too.
Do they?
The ones that I knew, you know, like men. Well, that's why I hung out in the bar. You know, but it was that's what I found back then. But it's an interesting what you're saying there. That now the strap-on. That's, you know, there's that show. What is it? The L Word on Showtime about the lesbians.
I actually don't. I've never seen it.
Oh, it's actually it's pretty good. You know, it's it's a world. I remember I used to look and be so envious of some of these women, the ones that they had. I mean, they're beautiful women. So, like in your films, these women, and I knew I didn't stand a chance with them. It's that hopeless feeling of a man. I think that's why men like to look at women.
Maybe.
When they, they get turned on by two women. I mean, I can't. I go like this when I see guys.
So a lot of people are like that. I had a release party for this video, and one of the guys was saying that he liked all the parts except for the parts with the guy in there, because they want to just imagine that they're alone with the girl.
Yeah.
So, which I can understand.
Too. And you know what I found when I see a lot of these promos, when the girls are, like going down on a guy or something like that, and then they look up at the camera, that just like throws me off. Because before I was like invading their privacy.
You like the more voyeuristic.
Yes,
quality.
and it was a turn on. But then when they look up and catch you.
Right.
Do
Do you cover your eyes?
It's almost like takes you out of the moment.
Yeah.
So I always wonder, you're a director and producer and this and that. How do you feel about that?
I typically don't have any interaction with the camera, unless it's an interview segment.
Okay.
Because I think, you're supposed to be watching something. You're supposed to feel like you're there, but you're not being acknowledged.
That's what I'm trying to say. And this is what I look, when I watch a film, this is what I want. I don't want you to turn to me and say, how do you like it?
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what they're doing on some of the websites you see.
Because in real movies, they don't do that.
No. Believe it or not, there's three things in life. There's family, making love, the smell of Italian gravy on a Sunday morning, or Frankie's on Melrose. You ever go to Frankie's on Melrose? You live in Hollywood.
I don't think I've been there, actually.
Greatest Italian food, New York Italian food
Okay.
that you ever want to have. Listen, I want to tell you, Julie Simone, you were great.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. I mean, I learned a lot. That's why I don't like to talk before, because I've learned so much. And this is not, people really are going to enjoy this and when this show plays, because you talk about it and it makes sense. It's